Good morning, everybody. We are doing something a little bit different today because, we can. So, Eric Siverts is going to be my guest today. And he was born in 1940, before food allergies were a major thing, before it was a cultural concern, before people really even knew about it too much. When he was in first grade, a teacher apparently was handing out peanut butter for a snack or something. And he knew, he was like, nah, I don't really want to eat that, but she made him eat it. And of course he got very sick. And that was the start of a lifelong severe allergy to peanuts. I mean, it wasn't the start. He had the allergy before, but that was the first time they figured it out. Throughout his life, he's had several life-threatening reactions, including some that landed him in the emergency room. From these experiences, obviously, Eric now has strategies and ideas that's kept him alive for the last 80 plus years, and for the most part out of the hospital. So these strategies have helped him to avoid the nuts hidden in potlucks and restaurants and airplanes. Oh my God, airplanes. It's like a flying peanut can sometimes. And they ensure that his invisible condition stays invisible. Eric also happens to be my father-in-law. So this is going to be a fun show. And he is also one of the most industrious, resilient men I've ever met. So I can't wait for you to meet him. We will see you in just a minute, and he'll be joining us in studio. See you in just a minute. Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, with my guest, Eric Siverts. We created this show for you because we wanted everyone with an invisible condition, no matter what it is, to know that they have a voice, they have a community, and they are not alone. And that is the idea. And you are not alone having a peanut allergy, but but welcome to the show. Welcome to our world, Eric.
Well, good morning, and thank you for the welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us when you and your parents, tell us about like when you and your parents first discovered that you had a peanut allergy.
Well, I was probably 6 years old. We were living in Siverts, Colorado. It was a rural farming area. A school was it was a small rural school. We had 3 teachers for 8th grade, so it was small and rural. They had a lunchroom, and you went through a counter, and the person would dish out whatever food you were to eat, and they put a glob of peanut butter on my plate. So we went and sat and ate, and I ate everything but the peanut butter glob. And the teacher came along and said, "You are not getting up until you eat everything on your plate." I told her, "I don't like that peanut butter." She says, "I don't care if you don't like it. You're going to eat it." I don't like it. Well, I proceeded to eat it, and probably, I don't know, I vaguely remember ending up on the floor. The teacher was extremely apologetic. She says, "Yeah, I just didn't know." From that, My parents, of course, told the teacher, don't serve any more peanuts, of
Don't
course.
do that again. Yeah.
So, but I didn't, that was, I didn't like it to becoming it was serious at that point.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that could have ended very poorly. Anyway, so just everybody in the audience right now, anybody watching, if anybody has any questions about avoiding foods that you're allergic to, avoiding peanuts in particular, you've got the expert right here for the next 50 minutes ish. And so if you have questions and you're watching on Facebook and you're watching on YouTube, type a comment. Maybe we'll be able to talk about it. Even if you don't, you can always reach out to me. And my email is on the notes for the show, and you can reach out to me if you want Eric to answer any questions or give you any advice or anything like that after the show's done. So this is kind of one invisible condition that you kind of want to remain invisible, right? Like you don't, nobody, if somebody sees you having an allergic reaction, it's almost too late, right?
Then it's really, it can be too late, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about, so anaphylactic shock is the term that I hear keep getting thrown around with allergic reactions and stuff. What when you if you were to happen to unfortunately encounter a peanut again and you started to go into an anaphylactic shock, what does that look like? What is that doing in your body?
Well, physiologically, anaphylactics is a reaction to an allergen that your body just doesn't like. What happens is, and most people are most concerned about, is your throat will swell shut, causing you to lose oxygen, lose the ability to breathe. Your eyes become red, watery, rash, your stomach hurts. But the shock part of it is that you go into what they call anaphylactic shock. And so what happens is your blood vessels dilate and your heart just can't pump enough blood fast enough to the vital organs, and people have died from it. So yes, it's serious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the blood can't, if the heart doesn't work right, that's a problem.
Well, the heart is working, but the vessels are so big, it's like trying to put the same amount of water through a great big pipe, and it just
trickles through.
It just trickles through instead of being in a small pipe. It goes where it should go.
I got you. So the pressure's not there.
No, your blood pressure drops. And
not cool. Okay, so that's the reaction. So how much of a peanut, like dust in the air? How much of a peanut do you have to ingest for that to be the case?
That's a really good question. When I first realized that, it was serious, anything small amount would be enough to trigger some sort of reaction. What happens first is if it's in the mouth, my mouth I can instantly tell you that it's a peanut. And if I can spit it out, that's pretty much the end of it. It's not serious at that point. However, if I don't know that and I swallow it, that's when it becomes serious.
Yeah.
So how much? Let me go back to a study that I was a part of at National Jewish Hospital. I think this is important. There was a study that my sister became aware of, my older sister. She said at National Jewish Hospital, they were going to try to develop an antigen for people that had a peanut reaction. So they said, "Oh, my sister, you'd be a great one." Well, I said, "Okay." So I went down there, but you had to sign a waiver saying you wouldn't hold them liable if something bad happened. But so anyway, I go down there and they do a skin test, and the skin test is, with a small amount on the skin, and you get a reaction. Oh, okay, well you're good. Well, then you have to go into intensive care unit. I mean, it's fully. I mean, they've got everything in the world to keep you going. And so the first weekend, it's a double-blind study. And the first weekend, I got a little blue pill, and nothing happened. It was sugar or something else. The second weekend I went down there, the first blue pill, there was something in it. So how much was in it? Probably just a trace, but it was enough. Okay, well, that wasn't enough of a reaction. Okay, well, you need another blue pill. Oh, that was good. Well, then another one. So probably, I think at that point I had probably ingested an entire peanut, maybe peanut and a half. So that's
Yeah, not a huge amount,
not
but
a huge amount, but it's boy, that's enough for me.
uh-huh.
Or way. So at that point, I would say I have since learned that small amounts I can do something with. Large peanuts, and if I swallowed it, it's way too much. So
Yeah.
even small amount, in fact, even in the air, I can, an open peanut butter jar, I can tell you that it's there in the room someplace. So
I was just gonna ask, like if you're flying somewhere in a right? If you're flying in this, Pringles can with wings, right? And
exactly
with recycled air, and and they're tossing out peanuts like crazy, and then everybody opens them, all the dust is in it. That's gotta
So
is that enough?
absolutely. When 100
Okay.
when 100 people open up their bag of peanuts, it's not good. I mean, I can tolerate it, and I don't get a reaction, but it's very uncomfortable. I would add this little story. So I have the allergy. My daughters, my son, all my siblings do not have an allergy to peanuts. However, my grandson, who lives out in San Diego, has a severe reaction to peanuts, along with other things. So my daughter one time was going to get on a plane. She walked up to the agent and said, my son here has a very severe reaction to peanuts. That airline, bless their hearts, pulled every peanut bag off that airline, that flight, and replaced it with pretzels. However, that's a one-time occurrence. Since then, I think I've seen more pretzels than peanuts, and not to say that the people will enjoy peanuts. It's just that when you have that many and you are in a very closed environment, it's not good. It's not good.
Well, and like pretzels, like some people are celiac, right? That like celiac can kill you too if you don't address it soon enough. But you're not going to have as strong of a reaction as fast with a celiac reaction from gluten than you will from all the peanut dust in the air for an anaphylactic
probably not
reaction.
Probably not.
So that's cool that they did that. That they came to
a lot of airlines will give you snacks, and even those snacks you have to be very careful of. One of my techniques, now we may be getting to this, but one of the techniques is I will sit on the aisle if at all possible, because if I can spit it out, if I can jump up and spit it out someplace, I'm much better off. If I'm sitting on a window, I've got to crawl over a couple of people that are sleeping, and by then time, sometimes it's just that few seconds, it's just too long. So
yeah, totally. I mean, because it can happen quick. Yeah, so
it happens quick. Yeah. especially if you've swallowed it, then it becomes serious. If I can get it out of my mouth, I'm uncomfortable, but it's not as serious. No.
Yeah, and you talked about like family and friends creating kind of a bubble of protect. Like was that when you were growing up, or is that like?
No, when I grew up, it was, as Jeff mentioned, there really wasn't much awareness back in the early 40s, 50s. It has since grown, and society is much more aware now of people with peanut allergies. Because there have been deaths and lawsuits and all that. So so that bubble has slowly grown. So when you educate your like Jeff, if I go to dinner with Jeff, he'll sometimes remind me to ask the chef, do you use peanuts in the food you're cooking? And it's always some degree of awareness around you. And I do my best, but those around you can add a lot of protection to what you don't eat or what you don't expose yourself to. Yeah.
Well, and one of the biggest and easiest things you can do when you're at a restaurant is ask them to cut, like if you're having pie or if you're having whatever, a dish that they're cutting out of a larger dish or something, and they don't just use a new knife. Use a fresh knife that's clean, and don't risk, maybe you cut something that had peanut oil in it with that last one. Just use another knife. It's easy.
Yeah.
But you have to remember to do that.
Exactly.
So,
but even that's a good, excellent technique. But also, if they've used peanuts in that kitchen, the utensils can sometimes have just they they use the same ladle in the same soup with and without.
Yeah.
So, just making sure that they don't use the same equipment. One of the places I really hate to avoid, but it's Cold Stone ice cream. Why Cold Stone? Because they have a cold board that they use to chop up all their nuts and whatever into their ice cream and then put it in. Well, you don't want the nuts, but that Cold Stone has still got all kinds of residue. Yeah. So Cold Stone is just out for me. You can't cross contaminate from the,
because they use the same stone for everybody. They don't clean it every time, and so which I mean they wouldn't think to do that.
They clean it to a degree, but I need it to a higher degree.
Well, and it's like you don't go to certain restaurants because I mean that's the no-brainer part. The simple thing you can do is you just don't go to, like, you're not going to go to a Chinese restaurant and hang out because they use peanuts everywhere in their food, right? So you just know that you don't go to this one.
Exactly.
And so
yeah,
it doesn't have to be so complicated. But so is it common for a person to be allergic to just one thing, or like is there multiple things? I mean, I know that's the most severe allergy is the peanuts, but is there other things?
Multiple is probably very, very common. In my situation, is peanuts, peas from the garden, and cashews. Those three. Now, peanuts will, I can go into shock.
Yeah.
Peas, I'm just very uncomfortable with. I've never gone into a very severe reaction, but I've come to believe that it's probably the same protein structure of that legume, peas and peanuts. Cashews probably have something similar. Cashews, I'm again just uncomfortable with, but I've never had any kind of reaction. Now, my grandson, who is very, very allergic to peanuts, tree nuts, dairy, cheese, shellfish, everything. So multiples, yes, I would say it's very common to be, if you're allergic to one, very common to have multiple foods that you're allergic to. Yes,
I'm glad you're not as allergic to multiple things. I mean, yes, Alex, my nephew Alex, who lives in San Diego, there's a lot more they have to watch out for. It is amazing that they have navigated so well it's incredible.
He's dodged multiple bullets.
Oh man, I mean, even when he's been here and we've for family gatherings and stuff, and we've been so careful, and even still sometimes it happens. So it's rough, man. Allergies are no joke, especially if they're serious. So we're gonna just cut to a commercial here just for a couple minutes, and then we're gonna come back and talk about like some tips, some practical things that people that are out there that have allergies, maybe it's new to you, maybe you just figured out that you're allergic to something and you're not sure, you need some advice or need some tips. We're going to talk about that on the other side of the break. And so stick around, don't go far. We'll see you in just a couple minutes.
Are you a change agent? You're going to love the Superpowers for Good show. I'm Devin Thorpe. Every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 11 Eastern, I host an inspiring changemaker on Achieve TV. Join us right here on E360 TV.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We are talking about this is kind of a big deal because, I mean, if you've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed, everybody, but on packaging and in restaurants, they even have little icons for, in some restaurants, for like they call it like the top 5, the big 5 or whatever, the top 10 allergies, the top 5 allergies. And peanuts has definitely climbed to the top of that list. There's, I don't know, peanuts and I don't know, dairy is probably one of them, and gluten and all that. There's probably a half a dozen other ones that I'm not thinking of, but it's there. People have gotten better at letting people know that things are in the food, but even still, you got to have some arrows in your quiver, so to speak, to deal with stuff just in case you don't see it until it's too late, right? Or something like that. So let's talk about some ideas that you know over the, I mean, you've had some experience with this, you know, you've been dealing with it for a few years, right? So what kind of things do you do typically for handling unfamiliar foods in a restaurant or a potluck, or
So probably let's back up just a second. The packaged foods are probably the most problematical, if you will. Packaged foods will typically have, the contents. And nowadays, they will say the allergens are wheat, peanuts, tree nuts, whatever. And so reading the label is extremely important.
Yes.
However, that was not always the case. So back when that was not the case, it was, a whole different world. But now that we do have that, I strongly urge everybody, read the label. Can't stress that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
However, the label will sometimes say they're wording it in different ways. So it might say processed on equipment that also processes peanuts, or it may just say or something similar
like in
to
a
that.
Facility,
something
yeah.
like that. It may, or it may even contain trace amounts of peanuts. A small particle of peanut. If it says it's processed on equipment, I tend to treat it cautiously, but I have yet to experience any reaction from any of that. I think some of that language is probably lawyer related, and it's designed to keep them out of a lawsuit. However, when they say may contain small traces of peanuts, I stay away from it. That is just too much of a roulette wheel. I will not go there at all. But I think it's a matter of reading the labels, and also another thing, you can read the label once, and then maybe a month or 2 years down the road, that same product changes the composition of what they use. Mm-hmm. Maybe they use a peanut powder or a peanut processor, and you have to keep reading, because even that will sometimes strip you up if you're not careful.
There was a barbecue sauce there was a barbecue sauce that we're like, I think at the time we were trying to avoid the corn or whatever it was, and or even gluten. Maybe there was even gluten in the barbecue sauce for some reason. And one formulation, it didn't, for like years, it didn't. Mm-hmm. And then we brought one home one day, same exact bottle, and it had the different ingredient makeup.
So what's happening is, crazy. I think peanuts and peanut oil and peanut powders, they're relatively inexpensive. And so when a corporation mm-hmm. or somebody is trying to, improve the bottom line, they will go to some lesser ingredient, or less expensive ingredient. For example, restaurants that like Chick-fil-A will process or deep fry their nuggets mm-hmm. in a mixture of vegetable oil and peanut oil. Well, that's enough I can't do that.
That's enough. Yeah,
that's enough. So you got to stay away from those kinds of things where and they will even change. Sometimes even that will cause they will change their formulation sometimes. So
Sure. Well, and you never know. So you gotta be your own best advocate and ask too. Sometimes, like for peanut oil, that's probably kind of obvious. Like you could probably almost smell it when you come into a place that uses peanut oil.
Sometimes you can,
but maybe peanut oil is kind of tough to smell. I don't know, but yeah, you have to be your own best advocate. So restaurants seem like that also be kind of a minefield. Like like what do you do in a restaurant? Because they don't list ingredients. If you're lucky, they'll have a little thing that says gluten or peanuts or whatever.
So in those situations, again, if you're very careful to ask, that helps. Sometimes the waiter knows, sometimes they don't know. They'll ask the chef. Sometimes the chef will come back and say no. However, even so, once the food is brought to you, some of the techniques I use to be careful of what I'm eating is I will sometimes just break the food apart. Breaking the food apart sometimes, and then if I smell anything that resembles a peanut, that's enough of that. Or I'll take a fork and look for nuts or something hard, just to, something that is obviously a peanut possibility anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be, but breaking it apart, smelling it, and using those sensors other than your mouth to, the physical test or the the smell. If you can keep it out of your mouth, that's the best thing, of course, is to do that.
You almost need like we were just watching a movie the other day that is the main character is a prince, and he's in this palace, and he's got all these royal helpers, you almost need like a royal taster.
that would be wonderful. But then, do they really know that? In fact, that's happened. I've asked my wife, does that have peanuts in it? And she said, I'm not sure. Maybe,
Well, if we're not sensitive to it like you, if it's not a life or death thing, you don't develop that whatever the word is. I'm not coming up with the word, but yeah, it's not as important to most of us, so we don't taste it. But
and so there's also
a good idea.
There's some there are some foods that I'm particularly cautious of.
Mm-hmm.
Chocolate is high on the list.
Ooh, yeah.
Chocolate, because I love chocolate, but they can hide all kinds of things in chocolate. They can hide peanuts. They can hide tree nuts. They can hide all kinds of things, and it makes a really, really good chocolate bar. Snickers, of course, I've never had a Snickers, and I probably never will. They're big.
Oh.
But they can use peanut protein. They can use a peanut powder. They can process it on it. And believe it or not, sometimes candies that have been okay, all of a sudden aren't okay. And that's an issue too. So.
Same thing with the processed foods, right? You
Exactly.
just gotta be careful and read the label. And,
exactly.
Well, and sometimes it's really tricky because like there was a time that we kind of did sort of I hate the word elimination diet because it's such a buzzword, but we found that we had some systemic allergies to some certain things, and so we were really reading the label, and we started to discover that over the years they've started to call different things different. They give it different names, right? Like corn is the most infamous one, where anything with DEX in it, like maltodextrin, dextrose, whatever, like that's corn. A lot of people don't always realize that. Is it similar with peanuts, or is it pretty cut and dry? It's like, here's peanuts. We're doing peanuts.
It's pretty cut and dried, except that that processing with a peanut protein derivative, even if you want to call it that, because I think sometimes my reactions are weaker if they use a cashew type protein, so sure. or a garden pea. So it's you've got to be. I just got to the point to where I'm super cautious about what I like, mostly because I have had some very serious reactions, and I'll tell you, I do a lot to avoid them, because not only life-threatening, but you're just miserable and you're uncomfortable, and it's just nothing to joke about.
No, seriously, it's really not. It's really not. And that's, I mean, I don't know anybody in my circle of friends or in my world that would, I mean, if you say you've got an allergy to something, that's it. They drop, I mean, that's it. That's what they don't give it to you, So I don't know, but you've, so you've talked about like even the strong smell of peanuts. Do you ever, like, we've been out to eat so many times together over the years, and I very rarely see you like step outside, like from a, does that happen though? I mean,
No,
has it never gotten that bad?
No, generally, well, okay.
Because you can't do that on an airplane,
No, you can't do that. No, that's why the aisle seat is if you're your friend on an airplane. Absolutely. Yeah. No, stepping outside. However, I think it's the Texas Roadhouse maybe that has peanuts dishes. People are eating them, throwing them on the floor.
Yeah.
You can walk in there and immediately I know, oh, this isn't going to work, and I will walk right back out.
Yeah.
Generally, though, I don't smell it in restaurants to the extent that I would like, crushed peanut on the floor.
I guess.
So no, I don't generally walk out, but no, I don't. I generally, I just look very careful in a restaurant. So.
Nice. So and you kind of talked about. I mean, you talked about Alex. Your grandson. But that. I don't know. Is this like a hereditary thing, or is it just a fluke? I mean, nobody else has this severe of an allergy. That's like a mystery.
Well, I don't think it's a fluke. I think it's a biological, genetic. Why did my parents not have the allergy and I did? There's always been somewhat of a, there's a miscue in the DNA there someplace.
Sure.
But it's very obvious that my siblings don't, but my grandchildren do, or at least one of them does. Not all of them. In fact, only one of them has a very severe. So why did he inherit it? Well, it seems pretty obvious that he inherited it from me. So it's kind of like almost like it's a biological pairing of parents that have a history of it.
Sure.
So,
okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So this is, I know this might be an obvious statement, but you've never had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, obviously.
No, and I don't think I really want one.
No, I wouldn't imagine I'd ever see you in the kitchen making one of those. But there are so many, especially in the last few years, there have been so many. I mean, there's cashew butter and there's, good Lord, I think I saw macadamia nut butter sometime in one store. What have you, is it the kind of thing you just don't do it, or have you adapted and kind of made it with the different nut butter? What do you?
So just brought a good point. Nut butters are, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
And they're very, very good. However, I'll tell you, so I actually love sunflower butter or almond butter. I think sunflower is my favorite. However, the very first jar of, I think it was sunflower butter, I opened it up and I looked at it and it looked exactly like peanut butter. And it was
almost like PTSD. It's like,
it was really, really hard for me to take that first taste, which was very, very small.
Yeah.
But then nothing, but there was no odor, but the appearance is exactly the same.
Yeah.
So even and they will say, they're very peanut free. And they truly are. So, but you really have to be careful of those nut butters because, they're very, very good, and they're a good substitute for peanut butter. But peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I will go to my grave without enjoying one of those.
That's okay. That's more for
what I do have is I have a sun butter or sunflower butter and jelly. That's my.
There you go. There you go. It's like Reese's peanut butter cups. You're never gonna have one of those, but. They also make those with all the different kind of nut butters in there, so you can, people are catching on. It's cool. The marketplace is catching on. So what other kind of is there any certain like food categories that are just out with, or do you just kind of roll with it and just be careful? Like, is there? Is there any blanket statement you're like, I don't eat this because
I've already mentioned chocolate.
the chocolate? Yeah, that's true.
Chocolate is I've got to be very, very careful with. But once I know that a certain product that has a good history, I'm okay with. Other categories, believe it or not, ice cream. Again, because ice cream can be something that they can hide a lot of product food in.
One of those mysterious ingredient, like when they say spices.
Yes.
Right. If you're allergic to a certain spice and they just lump it all in, you don't know what's in there, right? So yeah, stuff like that.
Confectionaries in general, you have to be very careful of. One of the worst reactions I had was a cake. The cake itself, the actual cake was okay, but they had a frosting on it. There was a big, thick, foamy kind of frosting, and it tasted wonderful. I was downing it right and left. However, I finally bit down on something that was a little tiny piece in there, and they had put crushed, not powdered, but crushed peanuts in that frosting. Well, I had ingested, and you get back to how much. I didn't have any idea how much, but I kind of suspected, this is not going to be good. So I excused myself from that party. It was an office party, and I got the heck out of there. But so you have to be careful of a lot of these, the sweet rolls. You're not for sure about some of those. But even cakes, I love carrot cake, but again, they've got nuts in them. Well, walnuts are what they're supposed to have, but you can't be sure. So.
Well, I mean, sometimes I got to change it up, like you're saying, They change it, they don't tell you, So here's the $64,000 question. Do you carry an EpiPen? I know the answer to that, but I'm asking.
Yes and no. I have carried it, and I've also never used one. So that's my dodging of the bullet, if you want to call it that. EpiPens are vital for your breathing ability.
Yes.
They will relax your trachea in your throat, and you can breathe. And they do work. I've had them injected. I have never personally injected one. So EpiPens are absolutely important, yes. However, you've got to be able to self-inject. And some people have that hang-up. They don't want to stick a needle in themselves.
Yeah.
So I might just interject. I know they're doing a lot of research. They have come up with a nasal spray that is an epinephrine related product. However, that's not on the market because the FDA says, no, you haven't done enough testing. So the alternative to an epinephrine pen is certainly there. Price is another reason. They are extremely expensive. And that's probably one of the reasons I don't have them. Have I carried them? Yes. Sometimes they're in the glove compartment of the car. Personally, on my own person, no, not so much.
Yeah, well, and that's a bigger issue too. That's like, come on, medical community, get your button gear and not, and don't charge $750 or whatever they are. I don't know. I think I heard that number sometime recently about how much, like out of pocket, how much an EpiPen is. It's ridiculous. So
it's expensive.
So no wonder people are caught, pinching pennies to not have to carry 2 or 3 of them because it's expensive. So let's just first bring the costs down, people. Come on. They can't be that expensive to make. I mean, come on. So, but I'm glad you at least have one in the house somewhere.
In fact, I think there's several in the house, yes.
Okay. All right. That's good. I mean, we don't want to have to use it, but it's nice to know it's there. So, all right. So we are, believe it or not, time flies when you're having fun. So we're at the end of another segment, and we're going to go to another commercial. But stick around, because on the other side of this, we're going to be talking about hope and how we maintain that in a world of all the crazy that's out there and all the peanut dodging. So stick around. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
there, I'm Dawn Livingston, your host on the Transcend and Succeed show. Join me Fridays at 2 p.m. Central for limitless inspiration and ways to help you transcend your limitations. Tune into the Achieve TV network and the Voyage to Vitality channel. Transcend and Succeed show, right here on A360 TV.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are already in the last segment, but that's kind of my favorite segment, honestly, because we get to tell some stories. We get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is hope. So I have a question for you, Eric. In the midst of all the craziness with peanut allergies and peanut dodging and all the, especially if you're in the middle of a bad reaction, how do you maintain hope?
Well, I would answer that with two thoughts. First, after all these many years, I know that the reaction will pass. My body will slowly process that peanut, and I will come out on the other side. I have never gone into that degree of shock that I've described. So the hope is, having experienced it, I know that there's an end in sight. So, but that's never fun, and it's really dangerous to do anything that to attempt the fake, if you will.
Yeah.
The other aspect of hope is, I know that the medical community is definitely there to help you.
Yes.
The hospitals, the EMA, the emergency medical help, they are right there to help you. I might relate one little incident.
Yeah.
There was a reaction. I was up with my sister who lives outside of Greeley, and she had some chocolate covered something on her counter, and she said, "Oh, those are almonds." Oh, well, okay, if you say they're almonds. Yeah. So I downed a couple. Well, I bit into one, and it was not an almond. It was a peanut.
Oh.
So at that point, going back to how much, I know I had at least one peanut, probably more than one. So, well, okay, I'm getting sicker and sicker, but she's living out somewhat in the country. Do you want to go to the hospital? Yes, we want to go to the hospital.
Yes.
Okay, so we go to the hospital. However, she drives us there. We get there, and when we walk into the emergency room, and I tell them I'm having an allergic reaction to a peanut. No paperwork, no nothing. You were behind the curtains on a bed instantly. They had you wired within minutes.
Nice.
Injected you with an EpiPen and all so forth. So
yeah.
So the medical community has definitely, they're very attuned to the possibility that you could go into a state of shock and die on you there. So the hope is that they're there. However, you need to take advantage of it. And the tip is, don't ever drive to the hospital by yourself. That nurse chastised us severely, not severely, but time again. Do not drive to the hospital on your own. Call 911. Get an ambulance there. They've got something to give you, an epi, oxygen, the whole thing. So call 911, even out in the country. So, and the other thing about that visit to the hospital, so I got better, and she said, "Well, you're ready to go. Do you have an EpiPen?" Well, that was one of the, no, I don't. And she said, "Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, but I got okay." The nurse said, I will let you, I'll release you if you will promise to go across the street and buy an EpiPen. So that's what we did. We went across the street and bought an EpiPen. So that's how important they, and so the medical community is really there in a big way to help you. So that's the hope, that you're not alone by any means. So,
well, and sometimes you gotta do your part too. Like I've had to go to the hospital in emergency situations too, and calling the ambulance was one time that's what we had to do. Call the ambulance. And so the good part of doing that, it's an expensive cab ride to the hospital, but you're you're in an environment that they can help you along the way too.
Absolutely.
Right? If something happens,
right. You will have help much quicker than you driving there. In fact, they said you drive there, you run a red light, you get stopped, you got a flat tire, you run into a fender bender, whatever. You will get there. You'll get treatment almost not instantly, but much faster.
Very quickly
in an ambulance. So
yeah.
It's
that waiting time, that 5 or 10 minutes to get there, feels like it's all day, but it's worth it.
It's definitely
you got it. So
911. That's the whole, and they are really very good and they're very trained nowadays.
Yes, yeah, they're really good, especially with stuff as, I hate to say as common, but it is. It's peanut allergies are not rare, so they know what to do. They're like, ooh, peanut allergy, cool. We know what to do there.
Mm-hmm.
They're right in there.
They're right on top of it. Yeah.
So is there anything about this peanut allergy life that you're thankful for?
Well, I'm thankful for the love and the community around me. Absolutely. There's a degree of special closeness with my wife and family. They're all looking out for me. I'm very, very thankful for them because they've saved the bullet occasionally for me. And I'm also very thankful for all of the research that society is taking on. I'm very thankful for the degree to which the nasal epinephrine, when that comes about, or any of the research that raises the awareness. There are groups that will advocate for food allergies, and I'm very thankful for all of the good that comes from those kind of efforts. Yes.
Yeah, totally. I love that. So you've been working on a book or a small book for a little while, and I'm going to call it an ebook because I think that'd be the best way to put it out. And you've got it almost done. I know you've got some medical, I's to dot and T's to cross and stuff, but he is working on a really cool little book for people with allergies to foods, to peanuts, to and so we're gonna do an ebook on that because that's gonna be the easiest way to get it out there. If anybody has any questions about that, or when it's gonna be available, or what's gonna be in it, or what it's gonna cover, put it in the comments on the show, put it on Facebook, YouTube, whatever, and Eric can reach out to you, or I can reach out to you on his behalf, and we can also, my email, invisiblecondition@e360tv.com is in the comments as well, and you can reach out to me and I can forward the message to him, and he can get it to you, or we'll update you when that's ready and all that kind of stuff. So if people have questions about this kind of stuff, what is the best place for them to go to get that information, that knowledge that you found?
The best, of course, nowadays you do a search. You can do a search on peanut allergies, for example, and you'll come up with a whole range of information. Some of it from medical communities, some from advocate groups. One of my favorite advocate groups is a site that I came across. It's called Red Sneakers for Oakley. Excuse me. Oakley was a young boy about 10 years old that died it wasn't a peanut, it was a tree nut. But they have a very active advocacy group that is trying to educate people. So one of the most important things in that age group from, say 6 to 12, when a child is most vulnerable from peer pressures to, try this candy bar, try it, and they don't have the they don't have the experience, they don't have the the knowledge. So they're trying to help the community to again, form that bubble around some of those.
And it's
vulnerable people.
www.redsneakersforoakley.org. It's
Right.
OAKLEY, right? Is that
I
right? I
believe
just
it
want to make
is.
sure I spell that right, because I'm going
Right.
to put it on the screen. I don't want to get it wrong.
Right.
So I think that's the website, everybody.
Yeah.
So, and it's in the show notes too, by the way. It's in the, we put it in the, information with Eric's bio and everything. There's a couple websites at the bottom, that one of them is that one. So if you want to go there.
So that's one of the things I really think is really important nowadays, is to educate and to advocate for these children, especially as you get older. You have that, maturity about you. You know what to do. But a small child is just very, very vulnerable. So
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to throw this up here on the screen. This is somebody that I've gotten to know a little bit on Facebook. She, Michelle Edwards. Good to see you, Michelle. This is awesome. I can't believe you're. This is fantastic. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I can't eat peanuts, cashews, any of them. So there you go. There's another one.
same thing.
So perfect. See, I mean, you're not alone. They're everywhere. So here's your guy right here. If you have questions, this is it. This is him. Invisible Condition at e360tv.com. Reach out. I'll get the message to him and put you guys in touch with each other if you have questions, Michelle. So
my heart goes out to you, Michelle.
yeah, right.
I know what you're suffering, or
Yeah.
I know what you're going through. Maybe
Yeah.
suffering is not the right word.
Well, yeah, I mean, and she's got there, a lot of people have other things going on too. And so it's like, it like piles on, it's like you don't have it, like the peanut allergy, not enough, right? You got some other condition going on. So it's just, you never know until you get to know the person, so any other last minute, we got about, I don't know, another minute or two left. Any last minute nuggets of wisdom you want to leave the audience?
Just be, for anybody that has the allergy, take it seriously. It's both uncomfortable and life-threatening, and do everything you can to help them. Educate yourself by all means. Go out and buy the EpiPen if you have, get the insurance to help you if you can.
Right.
But protect yourself and protect those around you, and help them to enjoy a good life. I also want to thank Jeff and his show here for allowing this to come out to the general public. This is another educational opportunity.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jeff.
Absolutely. I've been wanting to do this show for a while, and it just happened to fall in our lap a couple days ago that we were able to do it. So I appreciate you being flexible and jumping on here, because I think this is valuable, and I think people need to hear about it. So, and we've been hanging around we've been hanging around each other for a while, with I'm married to his daughter. And Catherine and I met when we were in 7th grade band class. So we've been hanging around each other for a while. So I knew a lot of these stories and a lot of this information, but we had to get it out to you, because having it and sharing it are two very different things. And so what good is it if you don't share it? So thank you for being here.
Thank you again.
It's been great. So anybody that is watching right now on YouTube or on Facebook, or any of the number of channels that we're broadcasting through, follow, subscribe, share it out, man. Especially if you go back to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel and find one that you're like, ooh, that's cool. I love that speaker, or I love that guest or that organization. Share it out. You're probably not the only one. So that's how we get the word out, man. Share. So tune in. We're gonna have Shauna Cullen is gonna be on the show on Halloween. It's gonna be a fun show. She is awesome. You're gonna love her. She's fantastic. So join us Tuesday, October 31st for our next show. And until then, have an amazing day, and we will see you next time.